Welcome to the show, everybody. We got to stick with it because I found a clip from a show that I frequent that we cannot pass up on the discussion. So stay tuned. We got a good one.
Strong and wild, we rise up high. Conquer fears, won't let them reside. Heartbeats pound as we take the dive. Living now feels so alive. Heart steel veins glowing bright. Fitness gone in the dead of night. Fading game, we got the sight. Crushing finance, career out of sight. Man up now, we own it true. Breaking chains, just me and you. Success stories everywhere. Living life beyond compare.
What's going on, everybody? It's your brother Kevin here, big brother of the Minimum Now. Wanted to talk about something we talked about last week, how in the last decade or so, elections have become more than just electing leaders. They've become something that makes people want to fight each other. They make couples want to break up. And me being a Gen X guy, seeing this country go in the direction that it's going, it's very concerning to me. And it's something I wish I could change, but I don't really know how. But I do want to bring to light something that I saw on a show last night that I frequent quite a bit. And it concerned me about how young people are really taking elections and making them not only more than they should be, they're destroying friendships, they're destroying relationships, even with families. So we're going to play a little clip here in a bit. But before I go any further, I have to bring on two really good friends of mine. First, I'm going to bring up Alex Huds.
I'm just throwing this all in. I'm just throwing this all in all at once.
You know what? Yeah, no intro needed. They know it by now, right?
I am so excited when you brought this up to me last night, and then looking through it and just seeing how people respond and like how the fact that this is even a question. This is going to be a really interesting topic to get into. And I mean, as we have as the thumbnail and the title, facts over feelings, and we have definitely been weaponizing feelings in today's society, and it's only getting worse, and it's just very, very interesting to see a real life example. So excited to get into it.
Yeah, I didn't even know where we were going to go because we usually decide on Monday, and it seems like this clip that we're about to play just, man, it came at the best time or the worst time, however you want to call it. It's on the Dave Ramsey show, a show that I listen to quite a bit, and almost never do I agree with their relationship advice. And it's getting to the point where their financial advice is a little above my understanding, is the best way, most sincere way I could put it. But I don't want to go any further without Josh, LA's best lifestyle coach, and everything that I'm not, which is tall, dark, and handsome. How are you doing, sir?
I feel fantastic, and yeah, I'm definitely excited to get into it today. And I'm sure the Dave Ramsey folks are probably just like, these guys again. So I would love to see if they had any type of reaction to our reactions to them. I think that would probably be entertaining. But you did give us a good one today, so I'm excited for us to really get into it and start discussing it and breaking it down.
Yeah, and before all the haters come out and start dissing me in the comments like you've done before, this is not a damn it Dave situation. We're not going to really get into their advice. It's more of the subject itself. So I want to go ahead and get started. We're going to play a little bit of this clip, and we're going to play a little bit more later. But right now, I just want to set up the situation, and I'm not even going to give it any kind of explanation.
Kansas City. What's going on, Nathan?
Hi, how are you guys?
Doing well. How can we help today?
So I just had a question. It's more of a relationship question. About a week ago, my girlfriend gave me an ultimatum on which candidate I should vote for in the upcoming presidential election.
When you say ultimatum, it's like vote for this person or I'm breaking up with you.
That's indirectly what she said. Yes.
Can we know who she wants you to vote for?
Okay, we'll get back to that here in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and leave Jade with her pretty smile up, and let's just talk about that. What were your guys' initial reaction if you were Nathan and your girlfriend of 3 years, they didn't get to that point yet, came to you and gave you an ultimatum? Vote for who I want you to, or we're going to break up. I'll start with you, Alex, on that one. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, I think that this is an interesting one. It's something that was kind of pushed in this space, at least the men's self-development or red pill or whatever space for a long time. They came across talking about ultimatums, and then it almost like walked itself back. Well, like, don't give her an ultimatum. You can present her the choice, but then go with whatever that ultimatum would have been. And it just, I hate that word. I think it's very unfair, especially in any type of relationship. What I hear when I hear there's an ultimatum coming up, or she gave me an ultimatum, that to me sounds like immaturity. Now, what they'll get into, because I had watched this through, and I can kind of tell from the guy that he seems he's probably nervous just calling into the show, but he does seem inexperienced. And it does almost sound like if he's ready and willing to have this girl be his fiance and get married, he should know her. How do you not know this about your partner if they have like certain ways of thinking or they want to control you in this type of way? There's just a lot of things here that, at least for me, don't line up. And I'm just like really curious as we go through the rest of this, what your guys' thoughts become on it. Because it's just, I don't know. Something feels weird to begin with.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, especially when the ultimatum. Most ultimatums aren't healthy. Some of them are, but Josh, I want to get your thoughts before I go.
I mean, it definitely sounds something that's like either one of two things, right? Where it's one, just like massive shit test type of thing, which is something that we all kind of know about. We see them like come, or two, more of a, you should know who you're dealing with, more to Huds's point, where it's like, hey, if you've been with someone, especially for 3 years, and this is kind of like a surprise or a little bit of a shocker to you, then, that sounds like there's some things that you weren't looking at, or you're maybe a little bit asleep at the wheel or whatnot. So you would think that you'd know a little bit about where someone is, but also like where their main primary passion points come out on a lot of these type of topics or situations. So it definitely does sound a little bit more like, hey, bro, take a step back. Like, have you been asleep at the wheel the last 3 years and not realized that something like this would be a potential scenario you could be in? Or unless it's like, hey, just absolutely for 3 complete solid years, never had any type of whiff or indication or anything like that, and now just got completely blindsided by it. Okay, but that seems like a fairly rare situation or a rare instance. But for me, I just kind of enjoy the Ramses folks their reactions to it, because they're just like, oh boy, we've got a spicy one here, and they're ready to dive into it.
Yeah, we're not going to play too much of their advice, and we're going to restart let it play here again. But shit test, yeah, I thought about that as well. Is she trying to see how much? I don't like to use the word control, and maybe he's using the wrong word by ultimatum. Maybe she is trying to express where she's coming from, but giving an ultimatum like that, I mean, some ultimatums, okay, stop doing drugs, stop being an alcoholic, definitely stop being abusive, or I'm gone. I mean, I think those are some pretty reasonable ultimatums. But vote how I want you to vote, or how I want to vote, or it's done. That's not starting a relationship off that's going to move into the next phase, which is engagement, that's not starting off very well. So let's play a little bit more here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Just for the tea.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. So she wants me to vote for Kamala Harris.
Okay.
Somehow I knew that. I don't know why. I don't know. Somehow I just knew that. Okay. And you're like, no, I don't want to.
So you guys, was it like a friendly discussion about politics when it started, or has this been a recurring thing? Does she get fired up about political issues?
As I found out the other night, yes, very much so.
So you discovered a new value of hers.
Kevin,
that
pause
is not
that.
a value
Pause
of
that.
yours.
Pause that.
Yeah.
I just found out the other night. Does she tend to get fired up for political issues? Well, I just found out the other night. It's exactly what we're talking about. Like and Josh, I love the way you put it. He was asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree. I mean, I'm not going to judge this young man. We've watched a lot of red pill content, especially some of the deep state red pillars, if I may. And the first thing would have been, oh, get rid of her. She gives you an ultimatum like that, bro. It's time to cut her loose. Go find someone else. Work on yourself, blah, blah, blah. But I want to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's his first serious relationship. He sounds young. I don't know if they ever bring up age there, but I would say probably somewhere around 25 or 26, which a young man like that, I would never recommend try to get this serious with a girl. But if you've been together 3 years, there's probably some deep feelings there. I mean, who knows? Might be the first girl that let him touch her boobies. That means he doesn't want to rock the boat. And I can get that. I can empathize with that. I'm not going to sympathize with it, but I can empathize with that. For a young man from St. Louis or Kansas City, there has to be other options, or we don't have the whole story here. What do you guys think?
I mean, it sounds like he's definitely very timid, right? Doesn't want to rock the boat-ish, but again, more bigger extrapolating the scenario and the situation is that this is why it's very important to vet people and vet like where exactly they are on the facts versus feelings scale of the equation in any relationship you partake in. So this actually translates really well into not only election time, which tends to bring out the worst in people, but if you extrapolate that out, it applies in a lot of other avenues, like, for example, the realm of business, where you may have a business partner that you think, hey, this person's going to be cool and level-headed. And then, a year later, you suddenly find out that when they've done none of the work and then you've done a majority of it, but they've contributed a little bit. So now they want a majority share of the company. Now, all of a sudden, you find yourself in a very heated and interesting situation where it's like, well, we're 50-50 on paper, and now we have to figure out how we have to legally handle this situation. So this really does speak to, understanding who you're getting into a relationship or a situation with, and also understanding where exactly they lie on the facts versus feelings side of the spectrum. So it's like, a good 6 months into the relationship and some type of topic around politics comes up, which again, if you've been with someone for 6 months and the topic of politics absolutely never comes up, I applaud you. I think you're lucky. Like, it's just, it's very, very hard and tricky these days because there's always something in the news or popular media or whatnot about what a president is doing or a political figure. So the politics is always going to come up at some way, shape, or form. But instead of running from it or being timid about it and not want to rock the boat about it, it's about how you can come and share your ideas, right? Not inflict them on other people, but share those ideas, but also see how other people react to that as well. If you notice that they're getting a little bit too fired up or overly passionate, you got to make a mental note of that, because that means, okay, they're probably willing to like burn the house down or like rip my head off like later on down the line because they get overly zealous and overly enthusiastic about it. So, this is definitely a good use case example of, yes, politics is definitely for sure a very, very good litmus test to see exactly where people lie on that facts versus feelings scale. Because the other time too, sometimes you get people that are just a little bit too factual, right? Where it's just like, well, here's the XYZ, the fact, this, and this, and this. And it's like, okay, that's interesting, but it just doesn't sync up with you personally, because you're like, well, I like the fact that you understand the facts, but it seems a little robotic. There's a little bit more of that sort of passion, enthusiasm, something I can really vibe with. And yeah, we can move forward and make things work out really well for each other. But yeah, definitely, take notes, gentlemen. Learn from this guy here, where you really want to, again, test and see where people lie on kind of the facts versus feelings side of the equation. But you also just learn how people are, how they're going to react to things, and does that sync up and mesh well with you with your particular threshold.
I love that. And I just want to speak on that before we watch a little bit more of this clip here. I am so guilty of this, and I will 100% put that out there. I am one of those guys you're talking about, Josh, where it's facts. It's like robotic, but it's just because I do my research and I assume that everyone does their research, but not everybody does. I know, right over here, I got what? The Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder mug. Yes, okay, right leaning. But I also listen to hardcore left leaning as well because I'm trying to gather facts. And then from there, I go ahead and I dive deeper into everything. And like I read the reports, I read all the information. And then I'm just like pounding that information. And it's like, what don't you get? It is A plus B equals C, like 1 + 1 = 2. It's that simple. But not everybody treats it that way. And that's just reality. And that's something that there's nuance, there's right and wrong, we understand that there's morals, but life is not black and white. It is multiple shades of gray. And so I think it's really important to pay attention to that and understand that, because everybody does see things differently than you. If you think of everything very logically, well, there's other people that think of it very abstractly. I mean, we just know that between men and women, right? Men think very logically, women think more abstractly. So keep that in mind when you're communicating with others. So in this situation, as we were saying, like, oh, it could be a shit test, or it might as well just be a shit test. It could be. It very well could be. And it seems like he's kind of failing it. It seems like he's not the one wearing the pants in the relationship. Not to say like pressing your political values on somebody else. I'll be honest. Like my girl's more of a Democrat, and I'm much. She's more liberal. I'm more conservative. That's okay, and those relationships work just fine. It's just about finding that balance and seeing and meeting the other person where they are.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with again, having dissenting beliefs or whatnot. Because again, sometimes you need a little bit of that healthy thing where it's like, hey, they disagree on this, which makes you really have to think and reevaluate what you believe. And you believe something else that really has to make them think and reevaluate what it is that they believe. And that's fine, But it does definitely sound like where this guy is coming from for sure is that he's definitely a little bit more on the, I don't want to rock the boat. I just kind of want to tiptoe. So now he's been tiptoeing for the last 3 years. Here comes the bill from all that tipping around. So, it's you're going to have to face it at one point or the other. So, it's one where it's like, all right, buddy, I wish you could, hopefully maybe he sees the stream or something. And then we can be like, hey, bro, hop on the cast. We'll help get you sorted and squared away, get you a little bit more on solid footing and solid grounding. But, you can keep on going, Kevin, because it definitely gets more entertaining as it goes.
Yeah, it sure does. And I'm gonna keep you guys hit the nail on the head, so I don't need to even elaborate on that, but I'm gonna play a little bit more here.
Politically charged as well on the other side, or are you just like, nah, it's not my thing?
Nah, it's not really my thing. Like I don't care who you vote for. Like I'll go have a sandwich with you afterwards,
Facts.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she kind of cornered you and said,
thing.
hey, wait, who are you voting for?
Well, so here's the situation. I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. We've been together almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
We actually leave for Mexico in less than 2 weeks.
Maybe.
Where I plan to propose.
Oh man.
And then so how it came up we're going to be turning in absentee ballots, and she just asked me, hey, who'd you put on your ballot for the political party? And I was vague with my reasonings why.
Because you had
I
a
don't
sense,
wrap
you
my
had
head.
a feeling that she was going to be pretty strong. Otherwise, why would you hide it?
Okay, we had a
Oh, ads? What are you
Had an
doing?
ad pop up, man. Damn
YouTube
you,
Premium,
YouTube.
bro.
But
Come on.
that is a good place to kind of stop, because we are alluded it to that point earlier that they're going to Mexico in 2 weeks. This man's planning on to get on a knee and say, okay, we're going to be together forever. What advice would you give this guy if he told you that? If, like, say, if you're having this conversation, or if he's in one of our podcasts right now, how would you react to that?
I would just say, look at the way Jade is reacting, like, since the initial bit of it, because it's like, it's that, you know, she can already know and tell and then pick up on, like, kind of where he's at, and it's like, oh, okay, I know exactly where he's going and what he's into, and boy, is he in some trouble here. So, you know, that to me is the most entertaining part and bit of it, where it's like 2 seconds in, she just already knows, like, oh, there's blood in the water. So, you know, the advice really right there comes down to more so about, you know, not being as timid, or, you know, under being more of that, like, doormatty, where it's like, hey, people can just kind of like walk over you, or you know, make yourself like quiet and small, just so you don't disturb or potentially offend anybody. It definitely sounds like he's been one of those types of guys that's more been reserved, and definitely been worried about more so what everybody else thinks, versus being someone that, you know, can be respectful, but also can confidently project or share whatever their, you know, opinions or leanings or whatnots are. So, you know, he could be in the exact same scenario if, you know, it doesn't matter who the end candidate, you know, his lady friend wants him to vote for. You know, it's the fact that he has not been able to really share what he thinks, share his thoughts, and be able to be confident in that in a respectful manner, without you know, because there's a fine line between, like, you know, being respectful, and then also, like, you can easily be a dick about it. So, you know, when you're confident and respectful, then you have really not much to worry about on that front. And so, and even with people that have wildly drastic, you know, different beliefs than you, because I've dated a lot of girls that have the very drastically different beliefs than I do, but I'm very confident and also very respectful in the way I share those beliefs. And just understanding that, like, just because you disagree with someone doesn't mean that you're putting their ideas down, right? Or you're trying to invalidate them, or necessarily say, like, hey, you're inherently wrong, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
And
for him, it's just a little bit more of that, like, confidence.
I noticed something really interesting. Sorry, Josh, I didn't mean to cut you off. I noticed something really interesting with this, and that I'm thinking about as you were speaking about it. I don't think he really has firm beliefs. Right? Like, how do you, if you feel strongly about something, you would bring it up at some point. Well, it's never been brought up. And that's why, again, like, even though they're saying 3 years, like, something about this just seems off. Like, I think about my girl, and like, she's not aggressive with me. Yet I'm very strong and firm in my beliefs, and I like to share those beliefs and those thoughts and those experiences and those observations of life with people. He seems like the kind of guy who's kind of like a puppy dog. He doesn't really have those firm beliefs. Did you guys get that feel? Like,
Well, yeah.
outside of just timid, but like, did you guys get that, like, puppy dog feel?
Well, I mean, even he said it the best. He was like, well, I don't care who you vote for, I'll still have a sandwich with you. So he's a young man that's really in a good stance. He's not letting politics rule his day-to-day life, which I can respect that. So many people do nowadays. And I think, Josh, like, when you brought it up, like, to share your opinion, I've learned to do it if I'm asked. I don't just throw it out there on how I feel about politics and how I would like to see the government work, or who I want in government. But if you ask me, I'm going to be transparent and candid with you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And then we're going to talk about it. And if we can agree to disagree whenever we want, but so many people nowadays are letting their feelings override their facts, or being able to have a conversation with them, that if somebody disagrees with them, that other person just becomes the enemy. And then it becomes an argument of who has to be right. And that's not how it's supposed to be, I don't think.
And the problem that this guy has is that he's on the exact opposite of the side of that, where he's caught in his feelings of fear. And that feeling of fear is preventing him from being able to share what his actual real opinions are. Because I do think he actually does have some opinions in there, which is why he's in this scenario. Because, you know, if he was just easily swayed, right, then it's just like, oh, I don't really care. So she wants me to vote for this guy. Great, I'm going to vote for this person. And then it wouldn't be an issue. But he's calling in because he's like, hey, I really don't want to do this, but she's really like forcing the issue. But he got in this whole situation because, again, he got so caught up in the feeling of fear that he wasn't able to actually show where the boundaries are on the line of the facts. So
it does show concern on his part that he would call in a show to ask for advice on it. So it does show concern and a little bit of backbone that he has. And maybe, you know, maybe this is the first time he's been presented with an issue like this in a relationship. So he didn't know how to react. And fortunately, he didn't just go off the rails and ruin the whole relationship just because of this one shit test, ultimatum, whatever you want to call it. But maybe he will learn that you need to learn how to talk about this stuff civilly and learn how to express your feelings without fear of repercussion from, especially from your significant other. That should be the last person you have to worry about drastic repercussions because you're expressing the way you truly feel. Because if you're doing that, then brother, you're being dishonest in the relationship. And that's not cheating, but it's almost a form of mental infidelity.
Yeah. I mean, who has the most power in any type of deal? The one who has the power to walk away.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any power to walk away here because he can't even stand by his own beliefs. He's like, this is wrong. I should not get into this business deal, but I don't have another possible potential client, so I might as well rush into it anyways. Like, or I got to stay with it anyways, even though this is not the type of client I would want. This is not the type of business relationship I would want, but I don't have any income coming in. Again, it's scarcity mindset. I don't have anything else coming in. So,
yeah. And this is a good use case example of like what happens when, again, on both ends of the spectrum, right? Because more often than not, we get, you know, the examples of when people are too aggressive, right? And too aggressively caught up in their feelings. But the exact inverse is also a major problem where you have someone that hides behind those feelings and gets held back because of them. So now when you have someone that's very aggressive on it, and now you have somebody that's hiding from it, that's this exact scenario that, you know, this guy finds himself in. And so it's a good learning lesson for everybody where it's like, hey, you want to be more balanced about it. So if you find yourself too extreme on the aggression or too extreme on the timidness, you're going to be off and something's really, really not going to work out really well for you. So, and that's, I think, you know, to the topic of today's show is that, you know, culturally speaking, we've definitely gotten more and more into the weeds in our broader feelings, but we're seeing a lot more people like that have been more aggressive with it, especially because of the internet. But we've also seen a lot on the opposite side of the equation, which I don't think it's addressed enough, which is people are getting a lot more timid and hiding behind them. And then that leads to the perfect powder cake scenario that we see right now.
That's wild. Dude, I swear to God, Josh, and I don't mean to, and you know, we're way past the mark where we get demonetized. I don't mean to suck your dick, but you have some brilliant ways of explaining stuff sometimes. And that is a brilliant way of looking at it, because that truly is what I've seen, is that everything is like going to two sides. There's those that get more aggressive, that have been getting more aggressive, and then those that are shying away and turtling up because they don't want to deal with it. And I've never seen such a strong divide than I do today with like the rise of social media and everything else. Like, I don't know about you guys. I used to love the days where we would have these like presidential elections as like debates and primaries and everything, and it'd all be televised, and like everybody actually would get together and like watch it and make a decision for themselves. Nowadays, it's all social media. Like, I don't know if it was with Trump coming in or if it was the advent and explosion of social media that really caused it. But now most of the things that I see are just like TikToks or Instagram reels of just like short form content where everybody's curating a message they're trying to throw out.
We'll say that for a lot of people, if you didn't learn it then, like you're getting another chance now. Like I'd say 16 was like a really phenomenal sort of relationship shit test on this front as far as the spectrum. It didn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on. You know, you had people that were like the last election before, it's like, hey, we're on this side and we're on this side. Okay, great. It's on the opposite. Yeah, we may disagree, but at the same time, we're still like kind of cohesion. And then like it became sort of that, you know, one or the other, right? It became versus rather than like where we're sort of in the mix together. So 2016 was that sort of powder keg, which if you haven't seen our prior shows, we detail exactly how as a country and a society we got there. So definitely would encourage you guys to go check out that prior show because we covered some really good topics. But that was that sort of test of, okay, are people going to be like at each other's throats now? So, you know, now we're getting another go around of it here this year, which to me, the most interesting thing will probably be like what is going to happen kind of going forward. But that's again going to be a topic for another show. Because right now we're still, you know, a couple weeks away from seeing what interesting things are about to happen. But it's very, very important that again, if you find yourself on either end or extreme of that feeling side of the equation, use those facts to kind of either to ground you, either get you a little bit more on the less, you know, confrontational side, or to get you a little bit more confidently out of that hiding behind yourself. Because don't believe everything you see on the internet. You know, there's plenty of people that if you go out and you talk to and you have a disagreement on the political front, if you're respectful and confident about it, most people are actually like pretty cool and chill and not ready to like, you know, yell and scream and throw chairs or whatever and, you know, get all over the place. So most people out there are actually tend to be fairly okay. But a lot of people are just kind of hiding behind those feelings because, again, we see every day, especially through the proliferation of media now, that all these extreme examples of people just going crazy and going haywire, you know, for whoever it is that they're supporting. So if we would just, you know, listen a little bit more in the real world versus seeing what we see online, then I think, you know, we'd be able as a whole society be able to move a little bit more cohesively in a forward direction.
Yeah, I want to say, Kevin, before you jump in here, I actually want to ask a question and then let you run with it, and we can go around and kind of talk about it, because with this entire thing, like as we're getting more emotional or more divided, when you ask somebody the question, and it goes back to some of the stuff I've learned from like the Manosphere, Red Pill, whatever, dating coaching type of things, or some of the just comedy sketches that they have. So when you ask the question, okay, so you're a feminist. Okay, understood. What rights, like you're looking for equality, get it? Okay, what rights or privileges do women have or that men have that women do not? You don't typically get an answer. And there really isn't that much of an answer, because we have the same opportunity, the same rights, the same privileges, men and women in today's society. It's the same type of thing when you have somebody who is like, let's just say, for example, a staunch Kamala supporter. And then you ask, okay, so name like two things that she's done that have improved America since being in office. You can't even get one. And I'm just like wondering where the cognitive dissonance lies, where you, and that's where I'm saying facts over feelings. We have to look at numbers. And numbers, what do numbers say? Highest inflation, highest, quickest increase, way more immigrants comparative to the previous presidency. Like all of these numbers that are just like off the wall ridiculous. I mean, we're feeling it every single day. I don't know if you guys feel it, but I sure as hell do when I'm trying to do my grocery shopping and just trying to purchase anything. It's like absurd. Like what the heck is going on? Like if you look at numbers and you look at data, you look at facts over feelings. Maybe I don't like the way he talks. Maybe I don't like the way he carries himself. Maybe I don't like the way he delivers a message. Well, we have to look at actually what the message is. Where do you think, and Kevin, I'm going to throw it right to you. Where do you think that cognitive dissonance lies where, but I just didn't like the way he said it versus, but that's the truth. Like, where is this coming from?
I think it comes from the inability to have a conversation with the other side anymore. Now it always goes into an argument. It's kind of like what Josh was saying. You got that disconnect. And as we were talking here, I start because it's the example that we're being set, especially for the young people, because we have a two-party system for a reason. So values may differ. However, we have the two parties so they can work together to find a center line that's going to be the best for the American people. However, when's the last time you saw a Democrat agree with a Republican or vice versa? If you turn on any kind of Fox News, I don't care, CNN, anything on the floor at a Senate meeting during a vote, they never compromise with each other. They get into basically mean girl and mean boy arguments with each other. So that's the example that's being set for the American people, especially the young people. So they're seeing that and they're like, well, if these people aren't getting along, why should I get along with somebody that disagrees with me as well? And I think that plays a big part in it, because there was a time when Democrats and Republicans worked together to find better solutions for the American people, because that's what they were elected to do. And people lose sight of that. We elect our officials to be our voices as the people. And that's not just in Washington, D.C., it's local governments as well. But if you see them all the time just arguing, trying to get that mic drop moment on each other and never listening to the other person when they're talking to try to find a compromise, then this is what you're going to get. And when you see it going on in the places that we're electing these people to be, how is it going to resonate with the young people to actually sit down and be a free thinker, to listen to somebody else's opinion and let it resonate to where it doesn't have to change your mind, but at least you can understand where they're coming from and listening, not just waiting for your time to speak to try to get your point across to make you right, because it's not about being right all the time. It's about what's best for the country. And I think that's what might be why we have a lot of people, civilians, whatever you want to call it, the population acting like this, because they see what's happening at DC. I mean, I'll go and call some of them out. AOC is one. She will not allow another perspective cloud her vision of what she thinks it is. And you got Marjorie Taylor Greene on the right that does the same thing. So that's just to name a few. I mean, if you look at them, none of them seem like they want to work together. So if we can't see the leadership give us an example on how to work together, how are we supposed to do it? Especially young people that are politically ignorant. And I don't mean that in a derogatory term, but it's just the fact. When I talk to people that need financial coaching, I mean, I will tell them straight up, there's nothing wrong with being financially ignorant because nobody's ever taught you. It just means you don't know. I'm not calling you a name. So if we're not seeing our own officials that we elected work together, how are we supposed to work together?
And I think it builds on, like, there's two big things, right? Which is the cult of personality, and there's the level of comfort, right? And so, especially when it comes to politics, like, a lot of we don't agree is the dog and pony show, right? To make sure that everybody else is kind of like, okay, cool, we're going to fight over these things that are trivial and don't really matter. Because I mean, it's like you watch Arnold Schwarzenegger's documentary, and he was even outlining when he was governor of California. He's like, yeah, we had the deal like already inked, and then we came to an agreement on it like, a week ago. But then when it came down to actually like debating it on the floor, well, of course, we took our little stances and whatever and put up our little fights just to make our constituents happy. But at the end of the day, behind the scenes, yeah, all right, cool. It was all good. It was very buddy. So I think very much on the back end of things, everyone's kind of fairly aligned because, again, they all hang out at the same parties. They all marry each other. All their kids go to the same schools. Yeah. They go to each other's weddings and birthday parties and whatnot. So it's more of the dog and pony show that's built around the cult of personality. And the cult of personality is a really, really powerful tool because, again, people will go for, right, as what they say, right? People won't necessarily remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. And so that cult of personality is a really, really powerful factor, which, the perfect example of that is the 2008 election. Whatever side of the aisle you're on, or whatever you think he was great or you think he was horrible or whatever, Barack Obama, as far as the cult of personality goes, Barack Obama was probably one of the greatest personalities that we had seen in politics since like the 80s with Reagan. So you can't deny that. Like from a PR standpoint and as a PR type of play, Barack Obama was spectacular. He was a politician's politician on that front because, again, he had that personality that you really could build that magnetic cult around. And then the other side of the coin is going to be on the comfort level because, objectively speaking, right, life has arguably been the best it's ever been. Like, we live in the most amazing time in all of human history. But if you rewind the clock back over the decades, right, you had to be a lot more involved and you had to know a lot more of what was going on because you felt the impact of a lot of things more directly, right? When you didn't have streaming services and you didn't have the ability to just use Uber Eats to get food and, be able to like kick back and listen to music, for every song you've ever wanted for like hours on end, you tended to be a little bit more involved in things because your attention and focus was more on like, hey, this is another thing that's going on. You felt the impacts more. Oh, this person is saying that we're going to increase taxes by, 15%. Suddenly you're like, oh, well, I'm calculating this out. Yeah, this is something I can feel a lot more. Nowadays, we're a lot more inundated and shielded or distracted in a lot of senses.
Yeah, I was going to say
a high degree of comfort. So for us, it's a lot easier, for these past couple of generations, really to rely more on that personality to sum up and inform the decision-making process versus the actual pain factor. Because even as much as people may complain or whatever, people, relatively speaking, are a lot more comfortable than they've ever been. But that comfort is starting to peel away a little bit with things like, inflation, the job market, things like that. So pendulum's starting to swing and retract as the bill for all this comfort is kind of coming due. So I think that's waking people up a lot more. And so it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens in a couple of weeks here.
I got a question. I want to cycle it around again because I'm learning from how you guys are speaking on this anyways. So I want to keep learning as well. Why is it that negativity is the number one thing that everybody is focused on? So when you go, like, when you think about like the rage bait stuff, like all that type of stuff, like that's what gets the most views, the most attention. Why do you guys think that is?
I mean, I'd say it's partially because of that, lizard brain survival. Like, we're hardwired for negative things to stand out more because it's a survival mechanism, right? Like, if someone comes up and compliments you, like, oh, that's great, like, and hey, great. And, you may forget about it, like, after a day or two. It's like, oh, it was a really nice moment. But, someone like is a real dick to you or like, calls you a dickhead or something like that. You remember that like for weeks, right? So it's just partially that sort of hardwiring of the lizard brain, which is, we look out for negative things because it's survival, right? We know, hey, if this dog bites, we need to stay away from that dog and other dogs like it. Or, hey, if this berry makes you sick, we need to stay away and not eat that berry, right? So I think it's kind of tapping into that underlying evolutionary psychology that we have and that we operate on, which, again, it always draws people in, right? People love looking at a train wreck or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say too, is because it's gotten to a point where negativity brings the most attention. And, back to your point, Josh, the dog and pony show that they put on TV and during debates and all that, yeah, you're right. They go backstage and they shake hands and they talk. A big way I saw that is when the dinner. I know they do it every year. It's kind of a roast. It's a big fundraising event that Trump was at. And he was talking about Chuck Schumer. And he was sitting right to the left of him, which when Trump was in office and Chuck Schumer, they acted like they hated each other. But he was like, he is a good man. He's a good guy. I hate to say it, but he is a really good guy. So it shows you, it's almost like lawyers. You think these lawyers hate each other because one is representing the defendant and the other one is representing, and you think that they hate each other because they're arguing. But then no matter who wins or loses, when that gavel comes down, case closed, they go play golf together.
Because they're all got paid.
They all work together. you know. And it's kind of that facade, that dog and pony show that you were talking about, that I guess they're thinking that's necessary now to maybe show their constituents how much they stand up for their beliefs. But I think that's hurting a lot, because it gives a false sense of what's really going on in DC. Because if they look divided, of course we're going to be divided, especially the younger impressionable people that see that. They think that's how it's supposed to be. Well, I saw AOC arguing with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and AOC is a Democrat, and that's what I am. Marjorie Taylor Greene's a Republican. And so when I meet a Republican, I'm supposed to act like that. And unfortunately, I think that that's where a lot of the disconnect comes and the division comes, is because of what people are seeing. And they're taking that to the extreme on the streets.
Well, I mean, that's, I would say, like, if I was a cynical man, right, I'd say that's wholly intentional. But again, if you look at the money and the power structure and everything, right, it's like, if you have a lot of public servants, right, that are making public servant salaries, right, that are all ridiculous millionaires and somehow have amazing insight into different stock, companies going public and things like that. It's like, hey, look, if you can put on that show to, again, keep everybody else busy and not like paying attention to what's going on that front, well, then yeah, it's an age-old tactic, right? It's like the old, was it the saying of the king is looking and he sees the villagers that are coming, and some of them have pitchforks and some of them have torches. And the king's advisor says, you don't need to fight them or defend against them or push them back. Just tell the pitchfork people that the people with the torches want to take away their pitchforks, and then watch them fight amongst each other and be distracted. So that's why it's extremely important in this time where, again, there's a lot of distractions and there's a lot of division that's being sprinkled out there. So that way, your people are not looking at where the real opportunities to win are. It's very, very important that, you got to find and get with a group or get with a tribe that will keep you focused and be focused on that same vision of like, hey, look, even though all this is going on, there's still way more opportunities than there ever been before, in order for you to find some sort of social mobility or to find some opportunity to do, again, what it is that you want to do. So that's the real important thing. And so being focused on that, but it gets hard when you're by yourself. Because again, when you're by yourself, it's just, oh, this person's saying this person's saying that. I like this person, I don't like that person. But again, when you're in a group and you're in a collective and you're all helping each other stay accountable and stay focused, then all of a sudden you start seeing that, hey, everybody else is distracted, but everything that these guys at the top are capitalizing on, we can actually capitalize on it too, because we're focused and we're not distracted. So that's I think the bigger, more important thing for anyone that watches this to note and to take a look at is, while everything, all the distraction is going on, again, the feelings are flying around everywhere. What are the facts? Because the facts will be able to help you find opportunity that will, again, let you get to where it is that you want to be.
So I got a statement to make here just in this whole thing. And shout out to you, brother, Vengeful Truther. Really appreciate it. And I didn't mean to necessarily make it against Trump, not to say what my political affiliation is. But I tried to chat GPT my brain there. So I have a question for you two. How much does the president of the United States get paid every year? What is their salary?
$450,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So in Barack Obama's term, or I mean, I guess 2 terms, let's say 2 terms, so we can cut it in half, but still, he made $70 million. In Donald Trump's term, he lost about $1 billion.
Yeah. Donald Trump was the first president since John F. Kennedy to not take the salary. He elected not to take the salary.
That's not it. But that's not it. That's not it.
But I mean,
because that doesn't add up. That doesn't add up to that amount of money.
But his businesses, not that they failed, but they lost a little bit of their revenue because he wasn't 100% engaged with them.
I think the bigger point though is that, if your salary is $450,000, if your salary is $450,000, how is it suddenly throughout the term of your employment that you are now able to afford a giant, enormous mansion complex next to Oprah's, right? It's like,
in
Yeah,
Hawaii.
and that's my point. And that's my
Slightly
point.
off.
When we look at things, we're trying to look at them objectively. Okay, so you got somebody who's willing to lose $1 billion to be president, and then on top of that, willing to run again, willing to go through an assassination attempt right here in my home state of Pennsylvania, and then still continue forward instead of backing down. Like when you think about, okay, facts versus feelings, who is somebody who's willing to literally put their life on the line for me as the American citizen versus like it just, if you comparatively look at everything. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, what the heck are we talking about?
Yeah, those are definitely some facts. Those are great facts that nobody really wants to mention. You'll never hear that on any of the news outlets. That you'll see it a little bit here and there on a meme, but that's something that people. And I'll say it's just because he loves the country. I knew that long before he even got into politics, before he came down. If you ever read his book, Why We Want You Rich, it's a book that he co-wrote with Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, which made Robert millions. If you ever read that book, I'm not going to get into it, but you can tell just by that book that Donald Trump wants every American, man, woman, black, white, Asian, Indian, every American to succeed. And he wants them to have the best life they can have. If you read that book, you know that. I can't say that about any other politician that I know, Republican or Democrat, or I know of. I don't really know any of them personally. However, I would say that's why Donald Trump forewent his salary. Actually, well, he gave it to different charities. I mean, you still have to take it, but it was all donated to charities. That's something that you don't see by any career politician. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that makes him a better person than any of all of them. We're not going to get on that. Not on this channel, not yet, because I don't want these shows are about the issues, like we're talking about, facts over feelings. Look at the facts. If you can make your facts that you can find, make your opinion or make your candidate the best option in your own eyes, great. But don't vote for somebody because you don't like the other person. I would say now, if that's how small-minded you are, don't vote at all, because you're wasting a vote. Or vote for the libertarian, vote for the constitutionalist. But we see that too often on both sides is, I'm not voting for this person because they're going to be the best for the country. I'm voting because I don't like the other person. And that's not just in the presidential race. It happens in the Senate and all that. That's not what it's about. I'm voting for this person because I want the other person to lose. That's fucking bullshit. So use facts to form a educated and a logical reason to vote for who you're voting for. That's what I wanted to get across in this show. And we're not going to go back to the Ramsey thing. It just kind of set the stage of what it's doing to young people, what it's doing to relationships, what it's doing to friendships, what it's doing to family members. You don't let politics ruin relationship, especially if you don't have the facts. If you don't know the facts, learn the facts. We talked about that last show. If you need policy, you want to see who's the best, it's all online. You can find it. If you need to know how your mayor is going to change the city you live in, go find out what they're standing on. Don't let the R by their name or the D by their name dictate how you're going to vote. Get informed, get educated, make logical decisions based on facts, not feelings. Sorry, I got a little bit passionate there, guys.
Oh no, dude, I love it. Let's get to the point of wrapping up, because we've been going for a while. And dude, if I start getting revved up, I could talk about this all day long.
Oh yeah,
I love this stuff. But what I really want to just as my concluding thoughts on this, and then we'll hop to Josh, and then Kevin, if you want to say anything else before we go all the way out. First and foremost, thank you everybody who's been tuning in. And if you are tuning in and you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, do everything you can to help this, because this is just rational information. Today's episode, facts over feelings. And I've just been seeing it crazier and crazier and crazier literally every single year, when the most important thing is to actually be looking at the cold hard facts. Okay, so we're going to work with black and white, but we have to move in shades of gray. There's a reason why binary code is ones and zeros, yet it still represents the same data that words do to us. You can go ahead and represent anything. That's why this computer exists. That's why you're even able to see this. So understand the facts, but then understand the systems that are moving within those facts. It's really what it comes down to. We could get deep into. Oh, no. See, you got me in my political mind, man. You got me in my
and a
political
little bit
mind.
of nerd came out there with the ones and zeros for coding. But I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
was.
Yeah,
No,
we've
I
talked
just.
about an
I'm
hour,
just.
so we probably need to wrap up here pretty soon.
Yeah, I was going so deep into my head, like so many things I want to say, but it's just very important to stay informed and understand that not everybody runs on the same operating system that you do.
Mhm.
So you may think more logically, but some other people may think more emotionally. It doesn't mean you can't get that message across. It's like going from Android to Apple. Doesn't mean you can't get the message across. Just you have to convert it a little bit. You have to change the way you're saying it, and then boom, it's able to be used. It's like the .mov versus the .mp4 formats. I mean, I won't super geek out on a bunch of different bit rates and whatnot, and like how they code it, which makes it different. But that's my whole point. Understand that you should understand yourself, how everything works, why it works, what this is saying, what that's saying. Gather all the facts and make your own decision. Don't necessarily force your beliefs on others, and maybe try a little bit to understand what others are saying, because that's what I think is so freaking lost here. Like when you think of some of those on the street interviews, as soon as you say, oh yeah, I'm Trump supporter or something, then you got people yelling at you, people trying to hit your mic out of your hand. You don't see that on the other side. You don't see that when people say stuff about like Kamala. It's just like non-aggressive. We are all in this world to have, quite honestly, have as much fun as we can. Enjoy the time that we have, enjoy the time with those that we do have. And that's about it. So what's the point of fighting? I really think that fighting only occurs when you got nothing else to do. So if you got nothing else to do, find something else to do. Hold your beliefs and just enjoy. I don't know. I could go, dude. I could go on like a fucking tirade for forever, but I'm just gonna toss it to Josh. I can't. This is oh man, this election has got me riled up.
Picking up the hot potato over here. Maybe the final thoughts that I have is, just like understand how to be able to confidently express your opinions in a respectful manner. But more importantly, it's very good to not hide behind your feelings, but also not get so caught up and swept up in your feelings that you're off balance. So you always want to maintain and be on balance, because that's going to be the most effective thing for you to move and maneuver forward. I've been in rooms with some of the most powerful people that you can imagine. And guess what? A lot of them are all over the political spectrum on various different sides. But what unites them is something that's a lot bigger and a lot more focused. They don't let the trivial things really get them knocked off and get them dissuaded. So when it comes to politics, it tends to kind of boil down to usually a lot more trivial stuff, because in your bigger day-to-day, it doesn't really affect you. But also too, if you get too caught up on that, you're going to miss a lot of opportunities because you're too focused in looking into something that isn't directly going to benefit for you. Now, if you say have, a business adventure that you're starting, and, whichever way the political leanings go is going to affect your business in one way or the other, then yes, pay attention, get very, very, very passionate about that, but see the opportunity and be able to position yourself that way. No matter what happens, you're going to come out okay and you're going to win. So that's the bigger thing, is see the bigger picture, which is what's more important, them winning or you winning.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
That's a great point. It's always hard to follow up, Josh. But I do want to take about 30 seconds to basically wrap up the video that we used as an example. They go on to say that you need to have a serious conversation with her, find out why you feel the way you do about how I should vote. Is it a trauma that happened earlier in life, or get to the root problem? Which, when it comes to the Ramsey show, I almost never agree with their relationship advice. And on this one, I halfway do. So hopefully it works out for this young man. We're just going to leave it at that for him. But when it comes to the issue at hand with facts over feelings, as men, an important essence of our being, and this doesn't have anything to do with alpha, beta, sigma, it's our ability to form our own opinion by doing what we need to do to get the facts to form that opinion. And then when we do have a belief, standing behind it. But I think Alex brought it up earlier in the show, is the most powerful person in a relationship, whether it be personal, romantic, business, is the person that can walk away. So I would say, as a man, you always need to have yourself in a situation where you can walk away with no hard feelings. Don't feel like you have to sit there and argue. If you've said the same thing 3 times and there's still no outcome, the conversation, the argument is going nowhere. So have the ability to walk away. You don't have to sit there and argue to think you're right and to make that other person think you're right. That's not our job as men. It's our job as men to create our values, create our core beliefs, and stand by them. But also be willing to listen to the other side. And if somebody makes more sense and you get an aha moment, don't be a coward. And I say that, and it's going to be hard for you to get this. Don't be a coward and just stand behind your beliefs because you don't want to say, you know what, you're right. Because you let facts dictate how you want to make your decision, not the way it makes you feel. And that's what I want to end on. I think that's
it, Kevin. That is absolutely fantastic. That's a great way to end it. That's a great way to sum it up. Yeah. Oh,
but I got to say it.
I'm getting revved up. I'm getting revved up about politics. I got to say.
You have to say it. If you're new to the channel, if you don't know us, if you don't like I don't care if you even don't like my face. Like, comment, subscribe, and drop in the comments a topic you'd like us to bring up. We always love to discuss anything relevant to current events or men in general. And we're not total red pill guys. We're not just going to say, she gave you an ultimatum, kick her to the curb, go find someone else. So always tune in. We appreciate the support. And if you want to check us out even a little bit further, check us out at minutenow.us. We're not taking new members, but you can always join the waiting list, get on the email list, and we'll go from there.
That's where the real debates happen and go. So
yeah, they're real good discussions. This is literally an appetizer.
Yeah, this is the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg.
This is fantastic. Well, thank you guys.
Take down a Titanic. So yeah, thank you guys too, man. And I will see you guys next Tuesday, and we will have another spicy topic.
Yes.
All right, let's do it. See you guys.